The why didn't I think about it sooner, fold up and put away router table, and how to flatten stock fast without a joiner, this week on Blue Collar Woodworking. This week at the Stomping Nubs workshop, I've had some rare free time on my hands. Now, I intended to use it to do some spring cleaning, but it's almost May, and it's still freezing cold out there. I still can't get the mail without putting on pants, so there's no way I'm going to start doing spring cleaning. I'm going to wait till the temperature gets to be about 60 degrees, and then I'll make somebody else do it, so it's win-win as far as I can see. So I decided to spend some time working on that jig that we started on a couple weeks ago, the one we used to make raised panels. I figured that this thing could do a lot more than I originally intended for it to do. And over the last week, I've been trying to figure out new ways to use it, and I gotta tell you, I'm in love. I mean, it's amazing what you can do with the router. You slap some pieces of wood together, you strap a router on it, and you're only limited by your imagination. And believe me, I have a big imagination.
You probably remember this as our raised panel cutter from our last episode. You don't need a special bit to route raised panels with this machine, and we found it to be a lot more accurate and comfortable than a table saw jig. This machine is well worth building even if you only ever use it for raised panels, but since then, we've been playing with it to turn it into a multifunctional horizontal router. Lots of people have made horizontal routers in one form or another, but this one adds a lot of features, like a tilting table, that make all the difference. One of the most important additions we made over the last week was to add a micro-adjustable lift mechanism. Now we can control the position of the bit with absolute precision. For extra safety and precision, we made our own hold-down clamps to go into that T-track sliding table that we made last week. If you square them to the table, it keeps your stock square to the bit and holds it securely in place. With those features combined, this is a lot more than a horizontal router table. You can do amazing things with just simple straight router bits. I hate tilting my table saw blade away from 90 degrees, so I really like to do my bevels on this machine. And you can really get a dead accurate 45 degree miter. It especially excels when you just want to trim up one that you've already cut, just taking a sliver off to fit a piece of molding or a picture frame part. After I cut my bevels and miters, I use the same setup with a slot cutting bit to cut a groove for a spline to reinforce the joint. I just feel like it's a lot more accurate than the table saw, but that's just my opinion. I wonder why you never see a doctor eating at McDonald's. Maybe for the same reason you never see me eating at a salad bar. Because I hate doctors. Simply changing the angle of the table can completely transform the usefulness of your bit. Simple profiles can become completely different, and it can really make for some interesting edge moldings. It can also take utility bits and give them a lot more use. For example, a lock miter bit can be used to cut a profile on the end of two boards that you want to join end to end, giving you a very strong and almost invisible joint. I also found it a little bit safer and more comfortable to use when cutting standard locking miter joints, because you don't have to stand the board up on end like you do on a router table. Oh, how I've missed you, dear half-lap joint, with your strong, simple goodness. But cutting you cleanly with a dado set is hard to do unless you have an expensive one. This machine has restored our love affair with nothing but a simple straight router bit. And while you're cutting half-lap joints, why not just flip it over, cut both sides, and call it a tenon? Oh yeah, you can do that fast and accurately with this machine too. And the best part is, If you don't want just straight tenons, you can tilt the table and cut them at any angle you want. Try doing that with most tenon jigs. I have to admit, Mrs. Stumpy was horrified when I told her how well this machine cuts rabbets. I'm not so sure she knows what a rabbet is in the woodworking sense. But I just told her, hey, they come out a lot cleaner than with my dado set.
This thing can do tongues and grooves, it can do beaded edges, and just a slight tilt of the table can completely transform all of my standard rotor bits. And the best part is, it's easy to just fold up and stick somewhere out of the way, because let's face it, in a small shop, we only have so much bench room to leave machines sitting on.
Visit StumpyNubs.com and click on the Stumpy Store tab to find plans to all the projects that we do here on Blue Collar Woodworking and help support the show.
Wood is never flat. It doesn't matter if you get it pre-surfaced at the big box store, it's not going to be perfectly flat. That's because wood changes with the temperatures and the humidity. It started out one way, maybe flat at the mill, but it went from there to a warehouse in another part of the country with another climate. Then it went from there to your Home Depot, and then it went from the Home Depot to your hot and sweaty workshop. You need to reflatten it. If you have a joiner and the board isn't too wide, it's quick and easy. But a lot of woodworkers don't have expensive equipment like that. Or maybe the board is wide and it's too nice to just rip in half. That's where hand planes come in. These are the things people used before they had fancy, expensive machines to surface their wood. The problem is they can take a bit of time and effort. If you only occasionally use this, you're going to quickly finding yourself breaking a sweat after doing a lot of wood, and that can really stain the armpits of your shirt. This piece of soft maple has a significant cup. So we're going to put cup side down. Now since it's cupped, that means the high parts is right in the center of the board. So it's fairly simple to do. You just plane it off. From time to time, you stop and you check it with your straight edge and see where you're at. We've still got quite a bit of cup, especially in the center. So we really have to take some more down. I like to take light passes like I would with any hand plane. Think of the electric hand plane as a very aggressive belt sander. It's not an exact tool, but it can get the job done fast. This board was really cupped, so it took a while, but finally we've got it just about right. The next step is to see if we have any twist in the board. And we're going to do that with our winding sticks. Now with the winding sticks, we can see pretty quickly that there's a significant twist in this board as well. We can tell that our high points are on this far corner and this close corner. So we want to take those parts down. Somebody who's done a lot more of this than I have explained to me that the best way to do this and still maintain your flat surface is to divide your board into 4 quadrants. Now we know that our high quadrant was this one and this one. And that center point is what we call our benchmark. Everything is going to be the level of that center point when we're done. We already know that these are that level. We just have to bring down these to it. Finally, it doesn't take long before we're going to end up with our corners matching with our winding sticks, and the board is reasonably flat. Now, the surface is a little rough. This is a rough tool. It's not a fine hand plane. So this isn't going to replace running it through our power planer. But it does replace the need for a joiner, which is nice if you can't afford a joiner or if you don't want to rip wide stock. We all have them. Bunch of jerks is what they are. You know who I'm talking about. That neighbor of yours that's always borrowing your tools. He thinks your workshop is his personal toolbox. You can go to Walmart and get a screwdriver for $1, but he'd rather borrow yours, abuse them, and then forget to return them. If he has a paint can, you can bet he's going to be opening it with one of your good chisels. Those 2x4s he got in the dump somewhere, you can bet he's going to be using your saw to cut the nails out of them. And when you catch him shaving the paint chips off the siding of his house with your good hand plane, the best you're going to get is, "Oh geez, I'm sorry." Of course he's sorry. He's sorry he got caught. It never occurred to him what an idiot he is. So here's what you do. The next time he asks to borrow something, say your circular saw, slap him on the back and say, "Sure, buddy, I'll help you out." You grab the saw and head over to his house. Now follow him to wherever that silly little project of his is and fire up your saw. Be careful, this next part is critical. Pretend to trip while the saw is running and push it against his chest. Don't worry, the blade guard will keep it from cutting into his ribs, but it'll scare him half to death. With any luck, he'll think you're a lunatic and never bother you again. Then you can sit back, have a cold one, because you've earned it, my friend.